You know, I really feel for deck building games. They had a massive high around 2008 with Dominion, and to about 2014 there was a bit of a backlash when people would describe new games as, another deck builder. There are only 4 traditional deck builders in the BGG Top 100 at the time of writing, and 2 of those are Dominion. Now, apart from the odd, well-received deck building game, the mechanism has been relegated to a smaller part of a larger game like in Great Western Trail. A calculated move. Oh yeah, I wrote this script. The mechanism is constantly evolving, bringing in games that use a board like Clank and those that don't use cards like Orleans, which is just another deck building game. Hashtag Orleans is just another deck building game. This is a list of my top 10 pure deck building games. Okay, what's first? Now, zombies have followed along the same route as deck builders. Popular, overdone, hated. But for zombies it also includes video games and films, so it's not just restricted to board games. Wait, why am I talking about this?
Resident Evil.
Ah, got it. Stars, like a weather reporter during a storm, are in a seemingly losing battle against Umbrella. This is a fairly standard deck building game with set piles of cards to buy from and action points for card actions, card buys and exploring. When exploring, you use your bullet cards to load a gun card and hope you have enough damage to kill zombies, dog, lickers or similar creepies on the other side of the mansion door you just opened. Now this can be a bit random, which is why it's low down on this list. Random bullet and gun draw plus random bad guy toughness feels like more luck than judgment a lot of the time. You cross your fingers and hope for a basic zombie, and you shouldn't wish for an easy fight. That's not fun. But there are plenty of expansions with survival mode, mercenary kill 'em all mode and versus PvP mode and more. I do like the theme though, and as a fan of the Resident Evil video game series it really does it for me. But let's get back to talk about board games. I should stay on track. Strangers next, right? No, okay. Well, that was a waste of a good segue. Okay, time for a breath of fresh air. Xenon Profiteer sees you extract a Xenon from the air and fulfill contracts. This is done via deck building, obviously, and engine building. Build and run your Xenon extraction engine to distill the air and remove the other elements from your hand: nitrogen, oxygen, and krypton. Now, bringing air into your deck swells it up by 4 cards each time, bringing one of each of these elements into your deck. Now, 3 of them are useless, but it's the only way to get that precious, precious Xenon. So there's a lot of adding and subtracting from your deck, more than most deck builders, I think. My review says Xenon Profiteer is a bit short, most engine builders are, but has great art, smooth gameplay, and for a deck builder is simple, cheap, and comes in a small box. Comes in a small box? What other kind of website gives you that kind of insight? Anyway, I should stay focused, this is going off the rails. Trains now? Oh, come on. Okay, it's clear why this is on the list. Mystic Vale has card crafting and push your luck, and it's very different to Xenon Profiteer because your deck always stays the same size. Reveal cards from your deck one at a time. White symbols are mana, red symbols are curses, and green symbols are blessings or something that cancel a visible red curse symbol. You can stop revealing at any time. If you reveal 4 cursed symbols, then you spoil and you ruin your turn. Otherwise, mana can be spent to advance a card. This is done via acetate cards that slide sweetly into a deck protector to update the card and its effects. Now, altering a card is just as good as trashing a card and adding a better, newer one to your deck. It works really well. Also, the teardown time, meaning unsleeving all of those cards, doesn't take as long as I thought it would either. There are around 6 expansions at this point, so the complete buy-in is around £200. That's $250 in American money. So it's an expensive buy-in for completionists, so AG, can we have an Essentials edition please? That would be just the ticket. Trains? No. This is a dice building and bag building game. Dice Masters also adds deck construction, which makes this the only game on my list with both deck building and building a deck. The game has set cards, but each player chooses those cards and 20 dice representing copies of that card distributed as the player sees fit. You buy those dice from those cards, and when they end up in your hand you roll them, and because each side is different, what you get, you get. The sides of the dice are shown on the card and allow for 6 different iterations of the same thing, a clever way of doing it. Use those dice to summon heroes and villains to fight and defeat your opponent. But it's collectible, and collectible is expensive. Now, tournament players dried up around here, but the system itself is still chugging along. This one is legendary. Legendary Buffy the Vampire Slayer to be exact. Also Marvel, but for me it's all about Buffy. It's interesting that it has an ever-changing row system, but also the row is made of different decks of your choice shuffled together. This actually has 2 ever-changing rows of cards, one to fight, which is set in different locations in Sunnydale, and the other to buy from, which is in the school library. This allows for the villain row to be themed around the big bad you're facing, and the library row to be themed around the relevant Scoobies. This means you can play your favourite Buffy episode, or Marvel film, or comic, or just shuffle all your favourites together. Okay, so it doesn't always work exactly. There's always going to be something in the hero or villain row that's going to be non-canon to the situation you're trying to create. Cards also trigger if other cards with certain symbols have been played previously in the turn that gives some strategy to which card you buy and the order you play them. Buffy has a light and dark track which switches things up, changing how cards work depending if we're in the light or dark side of that track. The Big Bad can also strike and trigger their scheme, so you're always on the lookout to try and defeat them before they can cause too much harm. Also, take too many wounds and your deck clogs up with useless cards. It is a really good system. It does set up and play a bit slower than I prefer, but it is a lot of fun. Now, to be a Slayer, you must have to train really hard. Not yet. It's coming apparently. Penny Arcade Gamers vs Evil and Rumble in Relay has the very special artwork and humour from the Penny Arcade universe. It plays from 2 randomly drawn rows of set piles, each from the 2 different resources in the game, green tokens and red power. Each of the 2 rows dedicated to that resource has a random boss assigned to it. Buy the cards to get them into your deck. If you can buy a boss card, you can also buy that as well, and they are generally very powerful. Each player has a character card too with various abilities that can really shift the way you play the game. This is a super fast deck building game in its purest form from Cryptozoic. There are quite a few attack cards which attack all players at the same time, but you can buy defense cards which are actually useful on your turn, but they usually have a better effect when defending an attack. Rumble in Relay added gold multicolour cards that need both resources to buy. Cards have the Penny Arcade humour from their webcomic, so expect scrotums and touching wieners, etc. Now this was my favourite board game app until they ended support for it. Never mind. Okay, I'm out of train puns, what's next? I shouldn't have lost my train of thought. Hey, I did it! Now Trains is the first deck builder on this list where a board is required to play the game. It has a set deck system, free to play cards which you use to gain money, not just to buy more cards but also to build track and place stations around a map. Building creates waste, which adds waste cards into your deck, which clogs it up with rubbish cards, which means you need to spend time and actions to get rid of them. It's not only interesting building the track, racing to build ahead of the other players so it's cheaper to do so, but it's also the second of 4 games on this list that are lightning quick to play. These are games where you can still be shuffling your deck from your last turn when your next turn comes round again. It's that quick. Also, normal train. Now they could have come up with a better name, maybe Sarah or Ian or Martha.
Why did you say that name?
It's his mother's name!
DC Comics deck building game, and to a lesser extent Lord of the Rings, but that game was brutal and not as fun. Each player has a hero character with an ability. My favourite is Cyborg, and there is the ever-changing row of cards. Now this is deck building in its purest form once again, peak Cryptozoic. Basically build a deck, use your hero's ability, and slap a baddie when you can. Superman gets a bonus from superpowers, Batman from equipment, and Flash always goes first. Theme! Defeated villains go in your deck and make you stronger. It's really just quick and a lot of fun. Now I know this game gets a bad rep, but the DC theming is there and the PvP element is small yet powerful, and it's good. But the PvP is nowhere near as annoying as it is in Lord of the Rings. There it is just a pain. DC the deck building game is the best deck builder set in a realm of heroes. What's next? Oh yeah, except this one. Now much like DC, Hero Realms is deck building in its purest form, but there's a bit more to it than that. Unlike my preference for DC over Lord of the Rings, I take Hero Realms over Star Realms. It's a fantasy thing in this case, and only this case. Hero Realms has champions and guards that stay in play turn to turn and can be activated, or even better, soak up damage before it can get to you. There are multiple resources, gold for buying from an ever-changing stack, attack from, well, attacking, and health for gaining back that precious health. There are ally cards that have a better ability if an ally of the same faction is played in the same turn, similar to Legendary. You can get character decks that make your deck unique, similar to the character cards in DC. I play the Rogue. You also have PvP, PvE and campaign player. Now I have all the stuff from the second Kickstarter, I should really get started on that bad boy. You can't take this list from me. Remember what I said about Legendary when I said about setting up a TV show, movie or a comic? Okay, so it doesn't always work exactly. There's always going to be something in the hero or villain row that's going to be non-canon to the situation you're trying to create. Well, Legendary Encounters helps you set up those encounters. There are objectives so you can play each episode of the TV show, and it takes that base Legendary system and takes it up a notch. Character cards give you a talent because these guys are talented, and you also get a flaw cards because that's very on brand for the Firefly universe. No one is perfect. Cards move down the row face down and you need to scan them to flip them face up. There are side jobs to achieve, there are events to resolve, there are ship strikes which deal damage to Serenity, which is on the side of the board. The main thing for me are the goal cards which give you something to achieve that are themed to the episodes of the short-lived TV show. At the end of the game you get credits to upgrade and repair Serenity, as well as heal damage from the player decks, which is persistent from game to game when playing a campaign. So you can play through a full season episode to episode. It's still not 100% perfect, but it does it better than Legendary, and the objectives are tense and fun. And while the system is the slowest of the free-to-play deck builders, it is my favourite deck building system. It's slower, but it feels more tactical, layered with character life points, goals to achieve, and Serenity that you need to keep in the sky. So good. Thanks for watching. What is your favourite deck building game? Let me know in the comments below. Remember to like, share and subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you know when a video goes live. You can follow me on Twitter, Insta, Twitch and YouTube at JTR Podcast, and support the channel at jtrpodcast.com/donate and /coffee, and finally find the blog at jtrpodcast.com. I've been Rob, aka JestaThaRogue, and I'll see you soon.